to give you an up-close and personal look at the new Berries and Boughs embossing folder from Concord and Ninth. This embossing folder is sure to be a staple in all of your holiday crafting. It's perfect for adding just that subtle touch of texture to any holiday card. Now this is a standard or 2D embossing folder, so it is compatible with most any die cut machine on the market. And you can see that the pattern is actually printed on the front so that you can see what you're going to be left with in the end. This makes for some beautiful texture on cardstock. And I've prepared a few panels here to show you what this looks like embossed on various colors of cardstock. You can see that this is going to add just a little bit of texture. I think holiday greenery is perfect for any holiday card, so it's going to mix with a variety of styles. And keep in mind that with an embossing folder, you can use this panel with the raised area facing up, or you can flip it over and use it as an impressed or debossed image as well. An embossing folder is also a very quick way to take your card to the next level. Pun intended. So let's take a look at how you're going to emboss with this Berries and Boughs embossing folder. Now I have my die cut machine here. I'm using the Spellbinders Platinum 6, and I have an A2 panel of cardstock. So this is cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This background is the perfect size for an A2 size card. You can see I've lined up my cardstock inside of my embossing folder and then closed it. And for this machine, I have found that the best sandwich is the A platform, the C plate, and then my embossing folder and paper, and then my second C plate, and then run that through the die cutting machine. And you can see I'm left with some gorgeous raised texture on this panel that took me just about maybe 30 seconds to do. Now to use this with your machine, you're going to follow the directions for embossing with a standard embossing folder. And if you have to adjust your settings, just know that if you're feeling a lot of pressure, you're going to want to stop. Now this raised texture looks fabulous on its own, but if you want to bump it up another notch, you can use a brayer and some of your coordinating Concord and Ninth ink colors. Here I'm using Juniper, and you can roll a little bit of ink over the top of that texture. Now I find this works best with a brayer and a light hand. You can see I'm loading my brayer with ink, and then I'm going to just roll over the raised texture with a light hand using my brayer and that Juniper ink. And you can see how those raised areas just come to life. I think this is so beautiful and such a great way to kind of enhance the texture on your background. Now keep in mind, I've used a darker colored ink here, but you could also use a white pigment ink and give it a snowy look as well. So now that we know all the ways we can use our embossing folder, let's look at a couple of cards that I created using this Berries and Boughs embossing folder. My first card definitely has a more masculine vibe. You can see I've embossed that Berries and Boughs embossing folder onto a panel of striped cardstock that I created with various colors of Concord and Ninth cardstock, and then I rolled over it with a brayer using some white pigment ink. I matted that focal area with a little bit of the brand new champagne metallic cardstock from Concord and Ninth. I absolutely love this stuff. Now for my second card, I decided to take it a little more to the feminine side, and you can see I have die cut an oval here. That's from the new Nutcracker die set from Concord and Ninth, and I inked over that using some rainforest ink. I also embossed a second panel of white cardstock and used the deboss side all over the card front. So there you have it, 2 cards featuring the new Berries and Boughs embossing folder from Concord and Ninth. This is the perfect way to level up all of your holiday cards, and it's sure to be a staple in your holiday stash this year. If you're looking for a way to brighten up your holiday crafting, the new Christmas Lights Inlay Die from Concord and Ninth is the perfect way to do that. So let's take a close look at this brand new inlay die. Now, inlays are all the rage right now, and Concord and Ninth is making it so easy with their inlay background dies. Now, this covers the entire area of an A2 size card, and it features all of these light strings, which is a perfect way to create a merry and bright scene for holiday cards. Now, when you run this through a die cut machine, this is what you're going to be left with. A panel with all of these light cutouts, and you're going to be left with all the little light bulbs and all of the little light bulb sockets that you can then inlay into that die cut negative space. Now, my favorite way to do die cut inlay is to take the panel that I've die cut and adhere it to a piece of scrap paper that has adhesive all over it. So when I go to lay in each of these lights, there's already adhesive on the panel beneath my main card front panel. So all these are going to stick really easily and allow this process to go really quickly. Now keep in mind, I'm only using one color of lights and one color of socket here, but you can die cut this from as many colors of cardstock as you want and create a bright and colorful, merry background. Now here's a few of the panels that I die cut. Keep in mind, you can use this over an ink blended panel if you prefer. So I have various colors that I've die cut and I can use them in different ways. Now, another fun way to use these inlay dies is to create a debossed impression with the die. Now, to do this, you're going to follow the die cutting sandwich recommended to make an impression or to emboss with a die. For my Spellbinders Platinum 6, the recommended platform is the A platform base along with the B platform top. Then I have my die with the blades facing up, my cardstock, the E embossing pad, and then the D adapter shim. I'll run that through my die cut machine, and this time, instead of die cutting all of those holes, I've made an impression with the die. And once I've done this, I can use it with the deboss side, or I can flip it over and have that kind of raised texture on my card front instead. So that's just another fun way to use these inlay dies from Concord and Ninth. Now let's look at a couple cards that I created with this Christmas Lights Inlay Die from Concord and Ninth. I actually die cut an entire panel from white cardstock and then trimmed just above one of those light strings. Now instead of inlaying each of these light bulbs, I actually added strips of cardstock behind each string of lights, and I finished that off by adding a little bit of sparkle pin and some glossy accents into the wells of each of these little light bulbs. That gives it some shine and some shimmer for the holidays. Now, my next card may just be my favorite of the entire release. This colorful Christmas light card is just the best. I took and added a little bit of pigment ink blending around each of the light bulbs, and you can't really tell in the video, but each of these light bulbs actually has a little dimension to it. I did that by adding a single white die cut layer behind each colored bulb. Then I finished the bulbs off with some glossy accents and some white gel pen details. I had such a great time creating these bright and colorful holiday cards with this new Christmas Lights Inlay Die from Concord and Ninth, and I think you're going to have a great time creating with it as well. Be sure to share all of your light and bright creations featuring the Christmas Lights Inlay Die from Concord and Ninth. We can't wait to see what you create. I have the pleasure of introducing you to the brand new classic holiday greetings die set from Concord and Ninth. You're going to love this because it can be used in so many ways to create cards this holiday season. Now, these classic sentiments include sentiments like Merry Christmas, Joy to the World, O Holy Night, and Peace on Earth. And each of these includes not only the letters or the words that make up the sentiment, but also a shadow layer as well. That makes them perfect for different techniques like stripped backgrounds or shaker cards, and these sentiments are large enough to be the focal area of your card. I also love that this die set includes a variety of font styles, so you have really fun and whimsical fonts as well as some more sophisticated fonts, and you can use them on a variety of different styles of cards throughout the holiday season. So let's have a look at each of these sentiments die cut. You can see the Peace on Earth here. You can use that as a knockout, or you can also just use the letters for the Peace on Earth. Here's a look at that Joy to the World, O Holy Night, and Merry Christmas. Now keep in mind, you do not have to use these with a shadow layer. These are large enough and bold enough to kind of stand on their own. So if you want to use each of these without the shadow layer, you can do that as well, which makes this a really versatile die set. These are also very easy to place right onto that shadow layer, and these are especially stunning when they're die cut from some beautiful metallic cardstock like the new champagne metallic cardstock or the new red metallic cardstock from Concord and Ninth. Now, my first card features that classic Christmas feel. I've created a candy cane inspired background with some cardstock strips for the shadow layer, and I have die cut the Merry Christmas from some matte silver cardstock. I've also added some greenery, which is from some of the new die sets available from Concord and Ninth this month, and I finished off my berries with a little glossy accents. I also used an oldie but a goodie, the Stitch Stripe card front die from Concord and Ninth to kind of mimic my candy cane stripes, and I love the classic feel of this holiday card. Now let's take it to the total other end. Not classic at all, but so much fun. I have die cut the Joy to the World several times from the new champagne metallic cardstock, and I've die cut the shadow layers from several of my favorite Concord and Ninth colors. I've added them onto a panel with lots of dimension and finished it off with a little bit of sparkly twine and some holly leaves from the brand new Festive Blooms die set. You're gonna love that one as well. Now, this card was definitely inspired by a card that my friend Therese Calvert made, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I love the juxtaposition of that classic holiday feel and the fun and whimsical feel with that joy to the world sentiment on this colorful card. The classic holiday greetings die set is versatile. You're going to use it over and over again, and there's so many ways that you can use it, including for shaker cards. I think this would be a great way to create a fun shaker for the holidays. What's your favorite way to use this set? Let me know in the comments below. The new Festive Blooms bundle from Concord and Ninth might just be my favorite of the release. You can see that this gorgeous holiday floral set is a stunner. Now, if you're familiar with the Primrose Garden die set previously released from Concord and Ninth, this is going to feel very familiar to you. But this Festive Blooms stamp set and dies has a decidedly holiday feel and makes it easy to create some gorgeous holiday floral designs. The Festive Blooms die set really centers around this stitch die here, which allows you to create floral arrangements with ease. It also includes the shadow layer, which makes creating shaped cards a lot of fun, and you can use these dies together or separately to create a variety of looks. Now, this also includes all of the individual pieces that you'll need to assemble your florals and the greenery. It also includes those two holly leaves, which I'm in love with, this beautiful banner die, which coordinates with the sentiments perfectly, and some berry sprigs, which can be used on their own as a fun little accent for holiday cards. And don't underestimate the power of greenery. I love to use it on all kinds of cards, and those pieces can be used throughout the year. Now, this is the Festive Blooms stamp set, and you can see that there are 5 large sentiments that fit perfectly on that banner die. This banner is designed to nestle right into the center of your floral design, making for a bold and beautiful card, but these sentiments can be used on other cards as well, as can that banner die. Now, I wanted to give you a look at all of the die cuts that you can create with this die set. First up, I have used the shadow layer and the stitched layer together to create this shaped card front, and I'll show you how to create a shaped card here in a moment. But you can also skip that shadow or outline layer and die cut this stitched floral pattern directly into an A2 size card front. That means you can use either the front side where it's debossed or the back side where it has a little bit of added raised texture. Now, for all of these additional dies, I've only die cut every die once. So you can see that you're getting several of these dies that die cut a couple of things at a time. And I really love that Concord and Ninth kind of thinks about this when they design their die sets, because it really does save a lot of time if you can die cut a couple of flower centers at once, or 10 berries and 2 berry sprigs at once, instead of running your die through several times. I'm just quickly showing you how to layer up these elements to create the different florals that are on this card. I also love that the center part for this kind of magnolia style flower can also be used as a pine cone. I think that's a fun way to kind of use these dies in unexpected ways. Now, once you've assembled your flowers, you can just nestle them right into the stitched pattern that you've die cut onto your card front, and it helps you build this floral scene flawlessly. Now, these 3 pieces come together to make a 2-toned or dimensional banner, and all 10 of these berries die cut at one pass, and they easily layer onto the berry twigs, which cut 2 at a time. I mean, that's a time saver. I love that about this. Now, you're also getting several greenery dies, and these holly leaves are some of my favorites and can be used as just little accents with various types of cards. So let's make a shaped card. I have die cut the stitched pattern and used the shadow or outline layer to die cut some juniper cardstock there on the right. I've also used that large outline die to cut 2 panels of white cardstock. Now that middle layer may be kind of optional, but I like to use it to add some stability to the back side of my colored cardstock panel. So I'm just going to start out by adding some adhesive all over the back of this stitched die cut juniper panel that has my floral arrangement kind of pressed into it. And I'm lining those up and adhering them together. That's really going to make this card front sturdy. Now this second panel of cardstock, I am going to score along the top. So I'm lining this up kind of pressed into the corner of my scoreboard, and I'm going to score a line at the 1/2 inch mark. Now I've rotated my scoreboard here because it's a little easier for me to do it from this angle while I'm filming. It kind of keeps me from getting my head in the shot, but I'm just scoring along the top of this panel at 1/2 of an inch. Then I can take and fold over this tab that I've created. I like to reinforce that with my bone folder so that I have a nice crease. And then I take and fold this in the opposite direction to really make sure that this is moving. This is going to create the opening hinge feature of our shaped card. Now, right above that score line, I'm going to add some strong adhesive. You could use some strong liquid glue. I'm using some tape runner here today. And I'm going to line up these 2 layers that I have and press them together. This is an easy way to create a shaped card. It doesn't take long at all. And while this doesn't look very impressive, let's see what it looks like with all the floral elements added. Look at this card. I am in love with this die set. Now I've created this shaped card with a rainforest background, and I've added all of the floral elements on. I've just assembled them as I showed you earlier, and I've lined up each of the floral and greenery elements with the stitched pattern that the die creates. So there's very little thought involved to arranging all of these beautiful pieces. Now I also added some champagne metallic cardstock accents. This is brand new from Concord and 9th and brings a little shine to this card. I used a variety of different green cardstocks for all of my greenery, as well as tucked in some vellum elements here and there, and added this beautiful scripty sentiment, which is from the new Nutcracker die set. Now, if you want to create a floral card, but you kind of want to go rogue, you can use the floral elements and the greenery on their own to create some beautiful cards as well. Now for these floral pieces, I did add a little bit of ink blending to add some depth and dimension, and I filled in around with several elements of greenery. I white heat embossed the May Your Christmas Be Joyful and Bright sentiment from that Festive Bloom stamp set. Now the Festive Blooms stamp and coordinating die set makes it so easy to create these gorgeous holiday floral cards. You're gonna find that that stitched background makes it so easy to place all of your elements and makes you look like a professional floral designer. You're going to love creating with the Festive Blooms stamps and dies. And if you love this, which how can you not, you're gonna wanna check out the Primrose Garden die and stamp set as well. Let's check out the brand new Holiday Sprigs bundle from Concord and 9th together. This includes the Holiday Sprigs embossing folder as well as the Holiday Sprigs stencil set. Now, these two gorgeous products can be used together or separately to create a variety of different looks, and I think you're going to see how versatile these are as we go throughout the demonstration today. So first up is the Holiday Sprigs embossing folder. Now this is a 2D embossing folder, so a standard embossing folder, and I love that the pattern is printed on the front. It coordinates perfectly with the stencil set. Now the stencil set includes 4 different stencils, and each of them does include some registration marks in all 4 corners. But I want you to keep in mind that there's no specific order that you have to use these stencils in. These stencils will line up perfectly over the embossed image if you choose to use it with the embossing folder. But here you can see that if you're just going to use it on an A2 size card, you'll use those registration marks in the corner to help you line up your stencils and get perfect placement. Now, I'll show you how to do all these things in just a moment, but we're going to start out with using the Holiday Sprigs embossing folder to create a raised dimensional background for our card. So I have a panel of white cardstock here. It measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I'm lining it up inside of my embossing folder and just closing it between the 2 layers. Now, to use this with your embossing machine, you're going to follow the instructions for using an embossing folder. Today, I am using my Spellbinders Platinum 6, and I have found that the best sandwich for this machine is the A plate, a C plate, my embossing folder with the cardstock, and then a second C plate. And you can see I have a beautiful raised image that creates a lot of dimension and texture for a card front without adding a lot of bulk. I used this Holiday Sprigs embossing folder to emboss several different panels of cardstock, and you can see it looks beautiful on all of these different colors. And changing the background can really change the look of the card. Now keep in mind, you can use this embossing folder on its own, but the coordinating stencils allow you to add color in various places, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I have the embossed panel of white cardstock that we just created, and I'm adding some repositionable tape to the back side of it with the sticky side facing up towards the camera. This is going to help keep my stencil in place as I add my color. Now, instead of using the registration marks to line up my design, I am going to line up the stencils with the pattern that's already embossed on the front of this card. So I'm just looking down through the stencil and making sure that the openings of the stencil align with the raised areas of this cardstock. Then I can grab my favorite Concord and 9th Christmas palette here, and I can add some color to these stencils. Now keep in mind, when you're using a stencil that has some more delicate areas like this nice big fluffy branch here in the center, you kind of want to work with the direction of those branches to keep from pulling up the little layers of your stencil. Now you can add a couple of different colors to each area to add some shading and dimension. And before I change my stencil, I like to wipe off the front of the stencil with a microfiber cloth to remove a lot of the excess ink so that I don't transfer ink onto other areas of my project. Now for this next layer, keep in mind you can do these in any order that you want. I'm using sea glass ink and doing a little bit of shading with juniper ink. Now this third stencil, again, I am lining up with the raised areas on this panel, and I'm ink blending in a couple of different colors. So for these kind of sprigs up here, I am using some Stardust, and for the holly leaves, I'm using Rainforest, which is a staple in my holiday crafting this year. For the fourth and final stencil, I'm once again just looking through the stencil, making sure that the raised areas of the cardstock below are lined up with the openings of the stencil. And I'm using watermelon to blend all of these berries. And I'll wipe off my stencil and remove it from my cardstock. And you can see I have this beautiful ink blended and raised design. So there's a lot of texture on this. It makes for a fun surprise for the recipient. It's kind of hard to see the raised dimension here on camera, but I flipped it over to the back so that you can definitely see the embossing is there. It's definitely very tactile in person. Now to clean my stencils, I like to spritz them with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and then just wipe them off with a microfiber cloth, and then they're ready to go for the next time that I create. Now let's talk about lining up these stencils with an A2 size card front. So this panel does not have any of the embossing. That's where these registration marks in the corner come in handy. You're going to use those etched registration marks, they look like little corners, to line up with the corner of your A2 size panel. An A2 size panel measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and it's a pretty standard card size here in the US. Once you've lined up the registration marks with the corner of your cardstock, you can go ahead and do your ink blending. Once again, I'm just wiping down my stencil before I remove it and moving on to the next stencil where again, I'll line up those registration marks with the corners of my cardstock. That's going to ensure that I'm going to have a perfectly placed design while using all 4 of these stencils. So I'm working my way through all 4 stencils here, blending on in various colors. And now you can see I have this beautiful ink blended background, but there's no raised dimension on this. If you want to add dimension after the fact, you can actually look through the front of the embossing folder and line up your stencil design with the design of the embossing folder. Now, this is a little more risky than the first way that I showed you, but nevertheless, it can be done. Once I have this positioned exactly where I want it, I'm going to take some repositionable tape and I'm going to hold that cardstock panel in place inside of the embossing folder, and then I can run it through my die cut machine to add that raised dimension. Now for these embossing folders, I have found that 2 A plates for my Anna Griffin Impress machine are perfect. So I just sandwich my embossing folder and cardstock between the 2 clear A plates for my Anna Griffin Impress, run that through my die cut machine, and then I have all of the raised texture as well as that ink blending on my cardstock. Now keep in mind, you can also use these stencils with any glitter gels, pastes, or embossing inks that you may have to add various different effects to your finished design. Now, I also think it's a lot of fun to add some ink with a brayer to your background. So I've used just the embossing folder on some rainforest cardstock here, and I'm using my all-in-one Turnabout jig to hold my cardstock in place as I brayer on some white pigment ink from Concord and 9th. I'm going at this with a very light hand so that the ink is only catching the raised areas of the cardstock, and this gives this embossed panel a completely different look. If you wanted to darken up those areas, you could instead use rainforest ink over this, and it's going to make all of those sprigs a little bit darker. I created 2 cards with this holiday Sprigs bundle, and this is a look at the first one. I stenciled a background and cut it at an angle, so that's a flat layer there with just the ink stenciling at the top, and then I adhered it to a panel of rainforest cardstock that I embossed with the holiday Sprigs embossing folder. And it's really cool to see how the stenciled pattern continues on into that embossing folder pattern. Now for card number 2, I embossed a couple of panels of cardstock and just die cut them to nestle them into each other. I have that champagne metallic cardstock. It's brand new from Concord and 9th this month. I've embossed that with the Holiday Sprigs embossing folder. And the background is some wheat cardstock that I also embossed with that embossing folder and added a little bit of white pigment ink with a brayer. I love the Holiday Sprigs bundle because it can be used in so many different ways by combining the stencil and the embossing folder. And I think you're going to find this dynamic duo takes center stage in your craft room this holiday season. It's time for an up close and personal look at the brand new Lot Inlay Die from Concord and 9th. You can use this die as an all-over inlay background or use the individual elements to create card projects. I love the modern feel of all of these different trees that make up this background that is sized perfectly for an A2 size card. Now this inlay die was designed specifically for die cut inlay techniques, but it's also perfect for making an impression on a card front or for cutting individual elements to use in different ways. Now, when you die cut the Lot Inlay Die, you're going to be left with a panel that has all of these knocked out trees, which would make a great shaker card as well. You'll also be left with all of the individual trees that you can then inlay into the background or nestle into those open areas. So my favorite way of doing this is adding the card front to a panel of white cardstock or white paper that has adhesive all over the front. That means that when I take and place each of these individual trees, it will stick right into place. You can die cut these in various colors of cardstock and create a multicolored background, or die cut them from a contrasting color to create a more monochromatic look. So here's a look at the first card that I created with this tree Lot Inlay Die. Now, in lieu of using the paper cutout pieces, I have used metallic gold dots from Concord and Ninth to add the ornaments to my trees. The first two rows of trees I have adhered directly to the card base, but for the third row, I added a couple of plain white die cuts behind each of the trees to stack them up and give a little dimension. I also added a heat embossed banner sentiment, and that die cut and stamp are from the brand new Festive Blooms bundle. For the second card, I actually just used the individual tree elements to place on my card front. I did add a little extra glitter to them, and I pulled in a few other elements from this release as well, including that Fa La La inlay background from Concord and Ninth that I used to make an impression on my card front. Whether you're creating an inlay background, individual elements, or even a fun knockout pattern for a shaker card, I think you're really going to love creating with this Tree Lot Inlay Die. It has such a modern feel for the holiday season.
Hi everyone and welcome. I'm excited to introduce to you the Fa La La Inlay Die. This can be die cut out of an A2 size cover front, so you can do it in or on the front of your card base or separately on a piece of cardstock. And this one creates Fa La La all the way across the front of your card. Now, when you first die cut it, you're going to have all these open areas that you can either fill in with the same colored cardstock, or if you die cut it from multiple shades of cardstock, you can fill in your letters that way for some fun color on the front of your card. Here I have it die cut out in various shades of cardstock such as poppy, juniper, and I believe I have maybe eucalyptus or sea glass here. I find it very helpful to cover a piece of cardstock with double-sided adhesive sheets, and that makes popping in those letters super easy. But you can also use these letters on their own on the front of your card. So again, die cutting out of some fun Christmas colors and just creating that fa la la on the front of your card. Those main panels that you die cut it from can be some fun ink blended backgrounds. You can do some shaker cards with them. This card example I'm starting you off with is using sea glass cardstock, and I filled in the letters mostly with that same color cardstock, but then I kind of highlighted one little section there with poppy and juniper cardstock. So I just kind of did my own little creative play there with the words to really make it pop out. And then this card example is where I die cut the cover plate from white cardstock and I turned it into a shaker card. So that is poppy cardstock back there, filled with some embellishments from my stash. And then the Deck the Halls is from the Jolly Holiday Greetings, and that is using parsley and sprout cardstock. And that is a closer look and some inspiration using the Fa La La Inlay Die. Hi everyone, I'm excited to introduce to you the Jolly Holiday Greetings Bundle. This has 4 fantastic sentiments on this set, and it's both in a different style and font, so it's sure to bring a lot of interest to your holiday cards this year. The back of the packaging, of course, gives you a quick look at what those sentiments are, and I did die cut some off screen to show you how it would layer together. So there's 3 of them that have a shadow layer, the Holly Jolly, Merry and Bright, and then the Happy Holidays. So there's the script and then the shadow layer. And then we have this fun banner one that is Deck the Halls. So you would die cut it out of 2 different colors of cardstock. Place that Deck the Halls over the top of the banner, and that'll die cut out your letters, and you can layer your banner together so you can get those 2 different colors. The first card example that I want to share with you is where I just had a lot of fun with the colors. So I did Merry and Bright, And the background for this was created with the Holiday Sprigs embossing folder. So I really made the sentiment the focal point of my card. I did add those letters to a piece of vellum to help diffuse the background a little bit, really makes those letters stand out. This next card that I have is using the Happy Holidays. So I die cut out this scripty Happy Holidays from Poppy cardstock and added it to a shadow layer created with a grapefruit. I really love that beautiful scripty font of the sentiment. And now for the background, I used the Joyful Season Turnabout stamp set in the colors Poppy, Grapefruit, Eucalyptus, and Juniper. And then the sprigs are coming from the Joyful Season die set. And that is a closer look and inspiration using the Joyful Holiday Greetings bundle. Today, I am introducing the Joyful Seasons Turnabout Bundle. This Turnabout stamp set has some poinsettias, some holly, and berries that you can do in a variety of turns. So the back of the packaging shows it with 1, 2, 3 turns and all 4 turns. And you can use any one of them as a card front. I will show you some examples of that in just a bit. And then we also have a coordinating die set. So I did die cut out those elements. We have the poinsettia flower, the little circle on there, I die cut from honeycomb cardstock, and you layer it behind there to give those yellow centers to the flower. We have holly and berries, some sprigs, and then this really cool banner that you can use to add a shadow to. So that bottom piece is die cut out of a dark cardstock, and then your top banner from a lighter cardstock. And you would die cut out like the word happy or holidays from that lighter shade. So when it shows through, it shows those darker letters and really pops off the front of your card. So it's a great accompanying die to the set that can be used individually on its own or in coordination with the Turnabout. Now, the Turnabout does also have some sentiments like Let's Be, Merry, Christmas, Sending, and Love and Joy. And you can see as I pulled out the stamp that these sentiments fit great on that banner along with some other scripty sentiments from the release. So this banner is going to come in really handy. Now for some backgrounds, my first one is doing tone on tone. So I have grapefruit cardstock with a grapefruit ink, and this is all 4 turns. So it makes a great kind of subtle background. Now my next one is juniper cardstock with juniper ink, and this is only using 2 turns out of the turnabout. And then my last one here is sea glass cardstock with sea glass ink, and this one is using 3 turns. So it looks good no matter how many turns you use. And then this is one that I did all 4 turns in 4 different colors, which is poppy, pink lemonade, tide pool, and peacock. I'm going to quickly show you how the turnabout works. I already have it loaded in my Misty stamping tool with my turnabout jig, and I'm starting off with eucalyptus ink. I have my jig positioned with the number 1 in the top right-hand corner. And for each color, I do stamp it twice. Sometimes you get just a little bit of a darker shade when you do it twice. Now I cleaned my stamp. I turned my jig so the number 2 is in that top right corner. And then I'm coming in with juniper ink. And see how that juniper ink really deepens when I stamp it twice. So again, I cleaned my stamp. I turned my jig to the number 3 in the top right corner. And this time I'm going to come in with a ballet slipper. What a gorgeous color combination. I did not expect that to look as good as it did. I'm going to turn my jig so it's number 4 in that top right corner, cleaned off my stamp, and now we're really going to add a wow factor to this. And this is a wild berry. I only needed to stamp this color once because it really packs a punch and it worked so well with the rest of the colors. So I will pull this out of my stamping jig and give you a closer look. This is going to make a great background for a holiday card. And now let's take a look at some examples that I created. This one I did poppy and aqua sky ink, and I only used 2 colors, but all 4 turns. The Let's Be Merry is one of the sentiments off of that Turnabout stamp set, and I just left a little bit of a white area down there to help bring a little bit of separation. And then for this card, I did Aqua Sky cardstock with Aqua Sky ink. And I believe I only did maybe 1 or 2 turns with the background. I did a little bit of ink blending from the edges to soften that and kind of have the focal point be in the center there with the happy holidays. And then I did some white splatters of paint. The sprigs in there also come from the Turnabout stamp set. So everything there is included in that Turnabout bundle. And that is a closer look and inspiration using the Joyful Season Turnabout bundle. Today, I am introducing to you the Nutcracker Bundle, and this set creates the cutest little nutcracker with lots of variations for you to customize your nutcracker. And we will walk through the pieces so that you can see the assembly. But of course, Concord and Ninth has some great examples on the back of their packaging, along with a banner, some additional embellishments for your banner, and then also a couple sentiments. I'll talk more about those enamel stickers a little bit later on. First, I want to show you all of the die cut pieces. So I have everything here on a piece of wheat cardstock, just die cut out of various Christmas colors. Starting with that black piece, that is your main base that you will attach your pieces to. But then we have all of these different hats that you can put on your nutcracker and the little band that goes on the hat. Then we also have additional pieces for the shirt. There are some pieces for a belt and sleeves. And this piece, so the face and the hands and the nose are all on one die. Those little hands will fit nicely underneath the sleeves once you put the shirt together. There's also some berries and holly. There are some little stars, the Mary and the Joy sentiment, and you can also add a heart or even a feather to his hat. So here's a close look at the detail of these, and they are so cute. It goes together really easy. I usually will refer to the back of the packaging when I start assembling, but once you have all your pieces die cut, it goes super quick. And then here are a few other little nutcrackers that I put together just using the various hats. This one is kind of the shorter hat. I love the traditional tall hat there, but there are also some smaller size hats that you can put on there and really play with the colors. I like to do kind of a monochromatic, so like the green and dark green, but it's really fun to play with the colors. As you can see, Concord and Ninth has provided some examples. And one other thing before I get to the enamel stickers is there is also this oval die. So there's two oval shapes in the die set, a smaller one and a larger one. These are great for the front of your card. Now, I like to create these little layered windows. I think it's really cool when you have the two different shades of cardstock. This happens to be poppy and grapefruit. So you can layer them together or use those windows individually. But you can also use those die cut pieces. So this is using blueberry and harbor cardstock. Of course, you can add these to the front of your card and pop them up with foam squares. They just look really great to highlight your nutcracker or any other Christmas image that you have. Now, I was having a lot of fun with my scraps of cardstock on my desk, and I created this Mary all along the front of my card using poppy, pink lemonade, honeycomb, juniper, and rainforest cardstock. And then this is my first card featuring one of the nutcrackers. I did blueberry and harbor cardstock for my window, and I also used the berries and boughs embossing folder just for some subtle texture. I have the Mary down there, die cut out of foiled cardstock on my banner. And then here's another card where I did three of them. The enamel stickers are on here that I'll point out in just a moment, but they're nice, shiny. They are just really great if you like to do a touch and feel with your cards. It's really fun to kind of rub your hand over them because they're nice and smooth. And Concord and Ninth has these enamel stickers in various colors. So you really have a lot of options here. There are some enamel stickers for the feather on the hat. You have your holly and berry, you have the mustache in an enamel sticker, and also the sleeves and the belt. One other thing I forgot to mention is on my card with the three nutcrackers, I used the Joyful Season Turnabout stamped in pebble ink just to give some light texture to the background. And that is a closer look and inspiration using the Nutcracker Bundle. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you the Ornament Inlay Die. This die set creates a beautiful ornament on the front of your card. It die cuts right out of an A2 size card front. It doesn't have a border edge to it, so you can do it out of your card base or on a separate piece of paper. And if you love to do puzzles or die cut inlay technique, this set is going to be great for you because you can really customize the color of your ornament and also the holly around it. This first card example I have to share with you is using the cover plate as is. So the original or the cover plate itself provides a beautiful etching detail that looks amazing in person. I also used some gold and silver foil cardstock along with poppy, grapefruit, and parsley. That sentiment joy that is in the middle of the ornament comes from the Nutcracker set. The next card I have to share with you is where I took the ornament and just used the ornament on the front of a card. Now, the background I created with the berries and boughs embossing folder with juniper cardstock and rainforest ink. And then I also used the grapefruit, some white cardstock, and poppy cardstock. The sentiment for this one came from the Jolly Holiday Greetings die set. And one other thing I wanted to show you that I forgot to show previously was this is the die cut front card front without all the pieces in it. So you can use it as a shaker card. You can maybe even stamp or ink blend a scene in that ornament. So lots of fun ways that you can use just that cover piece itself. And that is a closer look and inspiration using the Ornament Inlay Die. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you the Tree Topper Bundle. This is an interactive die set, but it can also be used as a standalone project for your cards. We have a coordinating stamp set with a lot of fun, bold sentiments. And of course, on the back of the packaging, it gives you ideas on how to use the die set. I'll be going over how to put that together in just a little bit. First, let's take a look at these big, bold sentiments. We have "'Tis the Season," and you can do "To Deck Those Halls," "Have a Holly Jolly Christmas," "It's the Best Time of the Year," and "Hooray." And then there's also 3 individual stars that you can use to either decorate your tree or just around your tree. Then here is a closer look at the die set. So we will walk through all of the pieces, starting with the hand and the sleeve at the very top and also the star. We have some sprigs. There's 3 different ones there, so you can really use those to die cut from various shades of cardstock. We have the ornaments that you can layer up to create different colors. We have a tree to add your star to. And then we also have the interactive pieces. So there's these 3 pieces that provide the word glue. So it tells you exactly where to put your glue. And there's also some pre-scored lines on there that the die provides. There's also one more die in here. It is a long, skinny rectangle. I'm going to show you that one as we start working on the interactive portion. So you can certainly use that arm putting a star on top of your tree kind of on its own on a card front, but it's going to be really fun and easy to put it together into an interactive feature. So first, I thought I would show you what it actually does before we jump into it. Now, I have just some simple presents on the front of my card, and then as we open it up, the hand comes down to put the star on top of the tree. And I just had to do a Grinch hand in his Santa suit putting that star on the top. I thought that would be just a super cute and fun idea. Now, that long, skinny rectangle is what is hiding our interactive mechanism. So you don't really see it, and you can decorate that any way you want, whether it's by stamping on it, maybe using some pattern paper, or stamping with the Turnabout collection. Any way you want to have it. I just have some plain cardstock here to show you what it does. Now let's jump into some of the pieces you'll need to do this interactive portion. First, we have the arm with the star that you would layer up with the sleeve. We have these 3 pieces that I die cut from Ballet Slippers cardstock. Those have those pre-scored lines on there. I also have my tree, my star, and then some little embellishments to decorate around my tree and add ornaments to the tree. Now, here is that long, skinny strip. It is measured out perfectly to fit on top of our mechanism, so it's going to hide that interactive feature right there. Another thing you're going to need is a pre-scored side folding card base. So I already have one here with my score line in the middle, and I'm going to set these off on the side and just start putting these pieces together that we're going to need for the interactive portion. Starting with adding the sleeve to my hand and also the star, just kind of turning it to make sure it fits properly in the right direction. And now we can move on to those 3 interactive pieces. So these 2 are the same size, the same thing. They have 3 score lines on them. So I am just going to fold in on those score lines, and then I will reinforce those folds with a bone folder. So the two ends have the word glue etched on them, and that is exactly where we need to put our glue. Concord and Ninth is very good about thinking out their interactive dies. Once we kind of fold it up a little bit, you're going to see it's going to create that square. And these are kind of support to our interactive portion. So again, just folding along those score lines and reinforcing those folds on that second piece. Now we have this third one, which is a little longer, and I'm bringing it up close to the camera so you can see how it is going to fold together. There is that V on the top. That is actually going to fold in, and you'll see this come together. Again, just going along those main score lines first. So I started at the ends. Then we have one that's a little bit off center, and then we have that dip. So what I do is I kind of push with my fingernail to crease that V just a little bit. And when this folds up, that V is going to fold in. So you'll see it as I go. You do kind of have to finagle it just a little bit, play with it to get it to fold in on itself. And I consider this like a mini file folder. You can see when it folds up, it kind of looks like a file folder to me, or file folder container. And that is our bigger piece. So this is what we are going to be doing or using for our interactive piece. Now we have our side folding card base that I already kind of folded in half. I opened it up to the center of the card. Now I have that interactive piece that had that V that folded in on it. So I'm going to fold it up on that score line. So you can see the bigger part is going to face up. I'm going to take a little bit of liquid glue, put it on the shorter side where it says glue, add a little bit of liquid glue, and then I'm going to flip it over. So this is the bigger side of it that is facing up towards the camera right now. My glue is on the bottom, and I line up that tab that says glue. I line it up flush with the middle fold. I apologize if I'm not explaining it very well. It's a lot easier to just watch on camera than it is to put some of these into words. I am using liquid glue because it does give me a little bit of wiggle room. Now I'm going to add liquid glue to that second tab, and I'm going to close my side folding card base. I let it sit for a few seconds, let that liquid glue become tacky, and then open this up all the way open so it's flush. Now that's why I like using the liquid glue, is I have that little bit of wiggle room to kind of adjust it where it needs to really be. And then as we fold it, you can see how that V kind of goes in as we fold. That's what's going to be our interactive piece and make our arm move. So you can rewatch that as many times as you need to. The folding does take a little bit to get used to. Now I'm coming in to those two smaller pieces that are exactly the same. What's going to happen is we are adding the glue right to where the die cut piece says glue on it. The main thing is you want the center crease of that piece to line up with your crease of your card base. I'll do it again here on screen for you. The other thing with the liquid glue, you need to be careful it doesn't, you add, excuse me, don't add too much liquid glue, because if it kind of squishes out, you're going to glue these pieces shut. You can see I used my tweezers there to make sure that it popped open, because we really want that to pop open. We don't want it to be glued shut. Now here's that second piece. Again, folded it so the two tabs are folded in on itself. Add the glue, flip it over, line up the crease of that tab with the crease of the card. I like to open and close mine multiple times because I want to make sure that, for one, it's going to lay nice when it's open, and also that it's going to fold nicely when I shut it. So I was just kind of showing you a top view. You got your two rectangles or squares at the top and the bottom, and then our interactive piece here in the center. I do also want to stress to make sure or watch your placement of this centerpiece, because if you put it too high, then when you close your card, your fingers are going to extend past the top of the card. Now I'm adding my arm. So you can see how the top of the arm is flush with the top of that V piece. You only need to add glue in that little tab that says glue. You don't need to add it any further than that, because otherwise it would obstruct our mechanism. I did speed portions of this up. I did hold everything down for maybe about 5-10 seconds with the liquid glue to make sure it is adhered really well. Like I said, I like to work with it when it's tacky, so that gives me some time to move things around where I need to. Now to add that top panel, I am adding liquid glue to the left-hand side of those tabs and then adding that rectangle over the top. So this rectangle is flush with the top and the bottom and flush with the edge of those tabs. Again, you can pause this, rewind it at any point to watch it again. So that long strip hid our mechanism, and now we can decorate the rest of the card. I waited till I had my arm in here and made sure everything adhered down correctly before I start kind of decorating with the tree. I could also put the tree in the correct placement of where the arm is going to come down and put the star on the top. These little ornaments are off of the die set from the tree topper. There is also a heart and I think a star in there too. I die cut them out of wildberry cardstock and added a few ornaments to my tree. These little kind of asterisk type of things I die cut from a gold glitter cardstock, and I believe these came from the Nutcracker set. I went ahead off screen and finished decorating the front of my card. I'm going to leave the top of that interactive portion open. You can stamp a sentiment, but I figured that'd be a great place to write a message. So as we open up the card, the arm is coming down to put the star on top of the tree. It is super cute. So that is my completed project for that. Here again is my Grinch card. I just love this one with his green hand. I used Sprout cardstock for my Grinch, and I just thought that was a really fun idea. And now here is a card I created just using some of the smaller elements. You could have a hand coming in from the edge of the oval to put a star on top of your tree. But instead, I just went for these layered ornaments and the sprigs on the top. I thought it was a really simple way to create a card where you don't need to have the hand or the interactive portion, and you're getting more use out of the dies in this set. So I hope I did an okay job of explaining how this interactive portion works. It is actually really easy to do once you kind of get the hang of the folds. I hope you enjoyed today's inspiration and introduction to the Tree Topper Bundle. Thanks for watching.